Hello, guys, and welcome back to the TnF Gaming Podcast. Yes, after weeks of deliberation, we decided to go with the most basic bitch name we could possibly find, but it works. I'm Travis, and I am back with VTM
Hello.
to bring you guys a couple topics today that will go along with how you been, VTM.
I've been living
Going along.
the dream,
Yeah,
raging on Twitter, that kind of thing.
what he does.
That's what I do.
So because so many games got delayed, we won't have. I don't even know. I mean, there's Yakuza 5 in February, and then I think after Yakuza 5, there's nothing until Doom debuts in like mid March.
Honestly, I didn't even know that Yakuza was coming out. I just
You,
thought February was dry.
yeah, Yakuza 5 remaster, which I'm excited for because then when the next Yakuza comes out, which is a new story, I can be like, hey, I played them all. Roll right in. Even though I played Yakuza 6 before I played like 3, 4, and 5, but that's just the way they released. It's not my fault.
Well, I guess it's time for me to get into the Yakuza series then.
Yeah, boy, because the new one's gonna be great because the newer one. And if you haven't played Judgment, game's fucking awesome. Same company, same city you're in, amazing story because that's what they do.
Travis, didn't you play that game on stream?
Judgment, yes, I did.
Man, must suck for people who didn't see it. Maybe they should tune into your streams.
Cheap plug.
Yep.
Very, very, very cheap. Anyway, so we'll roll right. We have two topics today. Like I said, there is no game review this week because I don't know. We'll try to, I always told myself that I wasn't going to buy as many games this year because I wasn't going to do as much. But now we started a gaming podcast, and now here I am. I'll probably be buying even shit games so I can talk to you people about it. And then.
Yeah, I'm willing to subject myself to shit games.
Yeah.
Because I love shitting on games.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. If you never watch any stream of mine ever, watch my Quiet Man stream. The game is something to behold. It's actually my crowning achievement.
Definitely doesn't leave you quiet.
Yeah. It's except for the game. It is my crowning achievement playthrough. I don't know. The game was only 2.5 hours long, but it felt like it was like 100. Like Persona 5 felt shorter than the Quiet Man in my head. But like I said, there's no game review this week. We'll figure something out there. There's not a lot of games until, like I said, Yakuza 5, which is a remaster, so it's not a new game. And then I think Doom, and then in April is when it ramps up with your Final Fantasy 7. And I think there's one more game in April. I can't remember which one, but we're gonna right into the first topic, which is I can't remember if it was last week or what. Pokemon Home was announced. Are you a Pokemon fan?
I was. I haven't gotten the last two Pokemon games, so I've gotten Sword and Shield or Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu.
Yeah. Do you have a Switch?
No.
You don't have a Switch? That would explain it then.
Yeah. I thought about getting a Switch, but I don't know.
I've never been a huge Pokemon game or fan. It's not really a game I usually or at all ever have played. But this, I did some research on this, and this is kind of a weird situation. Now, keep in mind originally that Pokemon Sword and Shield was a $60 game instead of your original $40 game that it was previously. I think from every game before it. I don't know how far back, but I know at least up until Sword and Shield they've been $40 each, which makes more sense as $60 each because they always got to release two games and charge you double or full price for both. Well, not full price, but $40 for both games, and now $60 for both games. And your massive go ahead.
Which is insane.
Yeah, and your big Pokemon fans are going to do that every time. So basically, they're going to be like, I'm spending $120 every time. If you want to do that, that's your call. But that's what's going on now. So you basically moving Pokemon from the Pokemon Bank moving Pokemon from the Pokemon Bank is not available for free, but is available for premium, which is the home premium, which is the one you got to pay for. It is, and at $16, it's $16 for a year, and a Pokemon Bank was $5 for a year. But to go from Pokemon Bank to Pokemon Premium, you need to have you need to pay for Pokemon Bank, which is $5 a year, on top of paying for Pokemon Home Premium, which is $15.99 or $16 a year. So you have to pay basically $21 to actually be able to do that. Unless they change that. That's just how it seems right now.
So $21 on top of
$60
the initial $60.
Yes.
And you still have to pay that a year. So it's like probably for future Pokemon games that come out in a couple of years, you're still going to have to keep paying for this subscription fee.
So
that's kind of stupid.
So for those who don't know what Pokemon Bank is, Pokemon Home is or Bank is, it's basically the same thing. Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Bank is for the older Pokemon games before Sword and Shield, where they're introducing this Pokemon Home Premium. There is a free version. We'll get into that later. Yeah, so like we talked about, Home costs a little bit more than 3 times more than Bank, and you need to pay for Bank to transfer to Pokemon Home. So if you only have the free version, you wouldn't be able to transfer your Pokemon from Bank to Home, to the free version of Home. So you can't just buy Bank. You need both versions.
So pretty much they're throttling you to submit.
Yeah. You could, like I said, you can connect your Pokemon Bank account with your Pokemon Home account, but only if you have Premium. Once you moved your Pokemon from Bank to Home, you cannot move it back. So basically, it's lost forever. So you won't have them on other games ever. So once you move it from Bank, so if you had it on Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and you move those Pokemon from Bank to Home, you can't move it from the Sword and Shield back to those other games ever.
So pretty much it's just like when Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu first came out, and you could link your account to your Pokemon Go. So you could trade your Pokemon from Pokemon Go to Let's Go Eevee, but as soon as you did that, you can't trade them back to your mobile game. So they're just gone from Go.
Yeah. It's weird. I understand that maybe it's tough because it's 2 different consoles, but I don't know. If you could trade it from one to the other one, you feel like you should be able to trade it back, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe people never look at Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu or any of those games again. I don't know. They are offering Pokemon Home for the first month at release for free. So for the first month, it's free, I believe. I have down Pokemon Bank, but I think I mean Pokemon Home Premium. It's free for the first month.
So you better do all your trading that you can within that 1 month.
Yeah, unless I'm wrong, and Pokemon Bank is free for a month, which would be hilarious if that was the only thing free for a month. But so let's go into the number of Pokemon that can be deposited into Pokemon Home. So your free version, you can only deposit 30 Pokemon into Pokemon Home. You pay your premium price, $16 a month. You can then put in 6,000 Pokemon. And for me, it's like, why do you, like, I could see it maybe if it was like 300 or 600 for free, and then you pay it's like 6,000. But look at the fucking difference. They're basically forcing you to pay $16 a year because there's no way.
And like for 30 Pokemon, that's almost like what? Like at least. Because you only get how many Pokemon per team? You only get 6, so that's only like 5 teams. So if you have 5 teams, then there you go.
Yeah, but if you're trying to catch them all.
But for people who are playing this game for these features, they probably have over like 100 or so. Like they're filling out the Pokédex and all that. Like to only be able to deposit 30 is stupid.
Yeah, I just think it's like such a big discrepancy between the two numbers that
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, look at these big numbers. Here's you can play it, you can get it for free you could have 30 Pokemon, or you could pay this premium price and we'll give you 6,000.
Well, what, 30 to 6,000? That's a 200 times difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's insane.
Yeah. So Pokemon can only be traded on mobile devices. Players cannot trade on the Switch.
Which is also weird.
It is weird, especially when it's not like the Switch doesn't have an online component.
Yeah.
So it's like why?
So does that mean that they have to download a new app then? That's what I'm assuming?
I'm assuming. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure how that works. I tried to look for a long time about. We'll get into this a little later about how Pokemon. How many Pokemon. Or can you trade Pokemon from the mobile device to the Switch? And like I couldn't ever get a clear answer. It was really weird, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Well, nothing is ever that clear with Pokemon.
No, and I went through many different things. Nobody had the answer, not even the Pokemon goddamn website. Anyway, so with the mobile app version of Pokemon Home, you'll be able to see much more than just the Pokédex entries. You'll also be able to check each Pokemon's abilities as well as the moves it can learn, but only on mobile, which I think is ridiculous because it seems like a feature that could be really good on all versions.
It used to be free
in
the game.
Yeah, that was a weird thing. I'm like, are you telling me you can't see your Pokemon's abilities unless you have this mobile version? Like, I don't. That's a weird.
Unless it's like talking about Pokemon who are stuck in like Pokemon Home.
That's possible, but still, why can't you do that?
Home be separated from just the core game then?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's weird how they're ripping elements out of the game that it seems, based on my research, have been in the games in the past, and now they're charging a premium price for it.
It seems like a memory card. It's like, so you have your main game, but you can also save your game on a memory card. So you can save your Pokemon on this memory card.
Yeah.
Take that memory card wherever you want. But you have to only use mobile to access the memory card. You can't access it through the system itself.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Like, why do I need the middleman?
It's pretty stupid. I think what Game Freak is doing here is what I feared would happen with how ridiculous some Pokemon fans are, where they just accept everything at face value. And for me, I know I'm no Pokemon fan, but it's like you can't accept everything at face value and just go, oh, Game Freak has our best interest, because they don't. They do not have. Maybe back in the 90s.
They clearly don't have like us in their mind. They have something else in their mind, because if they had us in their mind, they would make this a lot easier to like digest and all that. Like, they'd make it a lot easier to access your Pokemon. It'd make it a lot easier to trade your Pokemon. Back in the day, Game Boy Advance, you use a cord. That's it. You don't need to like you don't need a cord that goes to your phone and then to another game. Like, you just did it. And like, even with what was it? The 3DS. You could just trade with people online. It was easy.
And now they're charged because they know they can nickel and dime you. Why? Because they know people are going to pay for it. In a world where Fallout first exists and people actually bought that shit, they know that people will buy it. Because it's only $16 a year. It's not that much, but that's how they get you. That's where it starts. And then they'll start nickel and diming you on other things and doing all this other shit. Before you know it, you're spending $300 on a couple games.
Yeah.
Like,
and we understand that there's a free version, but that free version is not made for hardcore Pokemon gamers.
Yeah. No.
That's the gist of it. It's not made for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because people who are playing this game religiously, like people who do competitive Pokemon or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they are not using the free version.
Yeah, and I do know
because it's too little, it's too small,
Mhm.
it's not enough.
And I do know some diehard Pokemon people that will not buy premium. They kind of drew the line on that.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, like
Because it's all stuff that used to be in the game.
yeah. Because
Plain simple.
where does it stop? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you
Where
gonna
does it
do
stop?
next? I am worried, and they kind of did that with the expansions that we'll talk about a little later on. And I know there's other things in the expansions other than Pokemon, but they're still giving you Pokemon in those expansions. But you know you can trade them, but hopefully you have friends that are willing to do that. Anyway, so the number of Pokemon that can be placed in a Wonder Box at once, 3 for free and 10 for home premium. So if you're wondering what a Wonder Box is, players put the Pokemon in the Wonder Box so they can be traded with people around the world. So you put the Pokemon in the Wonder Box, and then it gets traded for something. It could be absolute garbage.
Which most likely will be absolute garbage unless you like somehow randomly run into that one player who's actually nice.
Yeah, so you can put a Pokemon in the Wonder Box, and then somebody can send you back, and you're like, ah, good, a shit turd. That's great.
Yeah. Just get a bunch of mucks the whole time.
Box is full of wonders. But yeah, it's kind of stupid. This is obviously to be able to trade Pokemon in game in an easier way, but it can be used to trade Pokemon from the expansions. But like I said, unless you have a friend that actually has the game or somebody who's willing in the GTS that we'll get into to give you a Pokemon from the expansions, more likely than not, you're probably not going to get a Pokemon from the expansions. Unless it's a garbage one, which I don't think they would put garbage one in the expansions. They want you to buy that shit.
No, they'd probably throw in a new Zigzagoon or something like that.
Yeah. So speaking of GTS, we'll roll right into that. So the number of Pokemon that can be placed in the GTS, which GTS Global Trading System or Station, it's one of the two, at once. 1 Pokemon for free for the free version, and 3 for Pokemon Home Premium. So with GTS, you'll be able to specify which Pokemon you want to trade and which Pokemon you want to receive, and then be matched with a trainer whose requests meet that criteria. Then you'll even be able to request Pokemon that you haven't yet registered yet. So one of my biggest issues with this, right? 1 for free is ridiculous, but 3 for premium is more ridiculous.
Yeah,
Because
I feel like the numbers are really low for because
yeah.
To specify what you're willing to trade and what you're willing to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people would just want to put like a lot of Pokemon on because again, if you're paying premium, you can hold up to 6,000 Pokemon. So like, say you're willing to trade off Machamps for like 5 different Machamps for like 5 different Pokemon. You can't even do that. You have to only do 3.
Yep. I just feel like this. Yeah. In that situation,
it's kind of like this old game me and my wife used to play. It was a Star Wars trading card game.
Mm-hmm.
And on that, like if you're making deals to trade, you're making deals to trade. She was a master at trading. Like she would have like 20 different deals going on at the same time. It's like, in this, you can only have 3, if at that.
Yep.
And like it just seems time consuming.
3 at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, like it seems time consuming, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In this situation, I mean, at this point, a lot of this I've been arguing for the free version to have more, but in this situation, I think both of them need more because I think for $16 a year to only give us 3, is really low compared to the 6,000 they gave us above.
6,000.
Yeah. 3 is really low, especially for some of your more diehard players that are gonna want to do a lot more with that than just 3 at a time. So yeah. So next up, we the room trade. You can only participate you can only participate in the free version, but in the home premium version, you can participate and host a room. So room trade lets you create a room and trade Pokemon amongst the people in that room. And each room can hold up to 20 people. So I don't know if this is a random room or if you can actually have a private room. I'm assuming it's more of a public room because there is a friends trading thing that they also do. I don't think
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's in the premium or not, but there is a friends trade. So I'm assuming this is random people in a room.
Well, if you know people who used to play Pokemon Go, like there was a specific group in my town that plays Pokemon Go. So like if we all got together and like, talked it out, met at McDonald's, someone creates a room, and we all just join and trade Pokemon with each other. Because like I don't know them personally, but it's like they could reach me if they need to
Yeah.
on like a Facebook group, and then we could all trade together.
Yep.
It's kind of like a socializing thing.
Okay. But on the other end of socializing, the mode is supposed to add a little suspense, quote unquote, by not knowing what Pokemon you'll receive until the trade is complete. So to me, this room trade just makes it seem like it's a room where you get secretly fucked over. It's like you're not gonna know what you get until you know, and you're like, oh, good, I got a fucking I don't know what's a bad Pokemon.
Meow.
There we go. You got Meow. You got Poir.
Ah,
But
damn it! It's like the 10th time.
Yeah, I read it, and I'm just like, a Chaozu. Anyway, I read it, and I'm just like, that doesn't add suspense. That's like adds like you're gonna get fucked over.
I wonder which one of these people are going to be a dick to me.
Yeah, I don't trust any of you. I'm never gonna do this mode.
Yeah, it's like I'm about to trade a Mewtwo to one of you. You're not going to believe it. You're shit bricks.
Yeah.
And in return, I get a coughing that knows self-destruct and only self-destruct.
Yeah. Oh no. So the next thing that is in the on the home premium is the judge function. It will give you the ability to check to see how strong your Pokemon are, which is unavailable for free and available for home premium. So for free, if you want to know how strong your Pokemon are, you can basically just fuck off. I don't know exactly how this works because I think there's like levels in the game, like you level up, but I don't know if there's like different like levels to how strong you are that this judge function. Maybe it's like comparing them.
Yeah.
I think it may be like comparing them. But the judge function. Go ahead.
And again, this just makes me wonder, like, because again, I haven't played Pokemon Sword and Shield, so I don't know. Mm-hmm. But do they not have like the guy who normally like looks over your Pokemon and like tells you how strong it could be or something like that? Like
that I don't know.
Does this just like did they just get rid of that altogether and that's why they have these there?
I'm not 100% sure.
Because they kind of had this feature in Pokemon Go where like your trainer could or your leader could look at your Pokemon and be like, "Oh, this Pokemon has a lot of room to grow," or "This Pokemon is as good as it's gonna get."
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if like those are just taken out of the game.
I mean,
and if so, that's a very poor practice because it's been something that's been part of core gaming.
Yeah, I'm not sure on this one. If any of you Pokemon Mega fans that made it this far and don't want to kill us, let us know.
Yeah, please educate us because again, I haven't played any of the 2 new games. I stopped at Pokemon Go.
Yeah. So the judge function, that's something that's already in the base game, but they're making you pay for it to be available in the actual bank. The Pokemon Bank or the Pokemon Home, which is just stupid. If it's in the base game, it should be free.
So it's in the base game, but it's not on mobile. Correct. So get fucked mobile.
Yeah. It's in the base game, and I don't even know, even if to look on home. I've been thinking it's mobile, but yeah.
Wait, so you need the game, and you also need mobile to be able to use these functions. Mm-hmm. But they take it off of mobile.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Um, the judge function is a weird one because if it's in the base, that one's just weird.
Yeah.
So, so like I said before, trading can only be done on mobile. The other things that can be done on mobile, only on mobile, is receiving mystery gifts, checking battle data, and checking the news. So you can receive mystery gifts from Pokemon Sword and Shield, as well as gifts specifically for Pokemon Home. Uh, so mystery gifts have been a thing since Gen 2. So like your gold, your silvers, your crystals. It should be something you could do without home premium or paying an extra fee because it's something that's been in the game already in the past.
Yeah.
So to charge for somebody to be able to do something that was already in the game years ago is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, oh, I want to trade this item to you.
Yeah. I mean,
But I can't because I haven't paid for it.
Yeah.
So get fucked.
Yeah. I mean, it's been used for event Pokemon and items since Gen 2. Obviously, they're hiding it behind a paywall now, so get fucked anyone who likes Pokemon or like mystery gifts. It was free and now you're paying for it.
I don't think I ever knew anyone who liked mystery gifts, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
they would give you random items.
But it's not really the point. If it was free before, why are you charging for it now? You're charging for it because you know if you put more shit in there, you'll be like, we can get them. That's why it's like, that's why the 30 to 6,000 is such a big.
The reason they're charging for them now is because no one appreciated them when they were free, and now they're appreciating them now because they
appreciate them when they're free, and they appreciate them when they're probably still shit.
Yeah. They're still shit, but like now you appreciate that shit because you have to pay for it.
Yeah,
it's like getting bad food at a restaurant, but you paid so much that you force yourself to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, man.
Or at least that's how someone's going to explain it to us because they love Pokemon.
There's just a level on this where I feel like there should be a line drawn in the sand at what they can nickel and dime you out of. Because sure,
don't make me pay to receive shit.
Yeah, because granted, $16 a year doesn't sound like that much, but what you're getting is stuff that should already be in the game or stuff that were in the game in the past. Or I mean, you're basically paying for 6,000 instead of 30.
It's like people who complain about WWE games not having, or the recent WWE game, it didn't have custom title belts. Now imagine if they charged you to put that into the game when they had it last year.
Don't say it now. That'll be next step with those fucking games.
Yeah, but it's kind of like that, but to compare.
Yeah. So with checking your battle data, you can check out how ranked battles and various online competitions in Pokemon Sword and Shield are going, as well as rankings of the Pokemon being used in them. And you'll be able to see the battle records of each trainer, as well as information about the moves, what moves are popular among Pokemon in competitions. This could be a great feature on the Switch, but it's only on mobile.
This just sounds like a setup for them knowing which Pokemon to nerf.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if they can see who's using what Pokemon and what moves are being used, this is a setup for like specific Pokemon receiving nerfs and moves getting kicked the fuck out. Like if they see that someone's favoring, or a lot of people are favoring one specific type Pokemon, maybe they won't be as good in the next game.
Maybe.
Or a specific move like Hyper Beam or something. Like, everyone just loves Hyper Beam. Nerf it.
Yeah. But why is it only on mobile?
Because Home is only on mobile. So they can't really put that.
Home is on both.
Ah, well. Get fucked, everyone.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, get fucked, everyone.
Yeah. Home is on both. You just can't trade.
Because they figure you're on your phone all the time anyways. You might as well be on your phone to check stats.
Man, nobody cares about mobile games except all the people that care about mobile games.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. As far as I'm concerned, they all get fucked. But
yeah, this whole Pokemon Home thing like really has a downfall because everything's on mobile.
Yep.
Like, why not just add it to the Switch? Like, just make it a menu on the Switch.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so with the news thing, you'll be able to receive news about Pokemon being distributed as gifts and information about online competitions for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Um, so news about Pokemon gifts and information being distributed to people with home premium, I guess. I don't know. I feel like why do Switch people now get to be told when gifts are being distributed?
Yeah.
What Switch doesn't have a notification system? I know they do.
They probably do. I was just about to say, like,
I know.
shouldn't there just be like some kind of notification system?
Well, let me tell you something. As somebody who owns a Switch, they do. But
or even in game, like, can't you receive notifications in game of like new stuff? I feel like that should just be a menu. Because I'm pretty sure you have an options menu or something, like, to go through all the menus of the game, like between your Pokemon and your items and shit like that. There should just be like a news thing.
Yeah.
Or even a news board in like whatever the main city is in the game.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point with this whole thing. If you're going to charge people playing the game $15, $16 a year, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a yearly price, not a one-time $16 price. So if you're still playing Pokemon games, which if you're a diehard, you will be playing Pokemon games forever. You have to keep redoing that $16 a year, and then when you do that $16 a year, if you have the Switch version, you don't feel like doing anything on mobile, you can't trade Pokemon, you can't receive mystery gifts, you can't check battle data, you can't check news, you can't be told when gifts are going to be distributed. You can't do any of this stuff on the Switch. So let's say you for some reason you have a Switch but you don't have a phone. I don't know who would have that, but let's say it's possible. You couldn't do that. Let's say you're a small child who your parents bought you a Switch, but they don't want you to have. But they don't have a
flip phone.
Yeah, or you're a child who your parents don't want you to have a cell phone yet, but they bought you a Switch. If you want to trade a Pokemon with one of your friends from school, you can just fuck off and wait till you're old enough to have a phone. That's basically what they're saying.
That's pretty much what it comes down to. Like, if you don't have a phone, get fucked.
Yes, because in the end...
God. Maybe this is their way for pushing out their own phones, the Nintendo phone.
Yeah, because there are parents like this is a kid's game. People grew up with it, so they're still adults, but in the end, it's a kid's game. And there are a lot of parents, especially in 2020, that do have their kids having fun. But there are some parents who don't want their kids to have cell phones until they're older.
That's probably why the price is so low on it, because like even kids could go to their parents like, oh, it's only like $16 a month or a year.
Yeah, but if you can't trade Pokemon, then what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
But anyway, fucking stupid. So mobile doesn't have the ability to move Pokemon from. So that's all the Switch stuff. So mobile also has things that they can't do. So mobile doesn't have the ability to move Pokemon from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee to Sword and Shield, or move Pokemon at all with Pokemon Sword and Shield. But they will be able to with the Pokemon Bank. This was the most confusing thing to me. It's something we talked about earlier. This is why the way they worded it, it was like, can you trade? So if you trade Pokemon with mobile, can you take them from your mobile bank to the Switch, or are they just on mobile? That's why I was confused. I'm like, can you get any Pokemon you traded for onto the Switch? I'm assuming you can, but the way they worded it was just so weird that it confused me.
Well, I would assume you just have to like take those Pokemon that are in your Pokemon bank or home and just place it into your like personal Pokebox. Probably that's on a computer,
and it's like game. Yeah, and so it's the weirdest thing because with the Pokédex, you had bank before, and everybody wanted the Pokédex back, and they're like, oh, we'll bring it back, all right, pay us 3 times more than you did before. They knew what they were fucking doing. I called it from the beginning. I don't fucking care what anybody tells me. You can call my phone because I call you because I called it. I don't know. I ruined the joke. Continue.
Travis, you should pick up that phone because Because you called it.
Because I called it. I ruined the joke. I ruined everything. But I did call it because I said that they would start charging for Pokemon, and they kind of do in the expansion, even though there's more to it than just Pokemon. But
they were sitting there laughing like, ha, these fools, they want a national Pokédex.
Yeah.
Wait until they see what we do.
Yeah.
Drop.
Yeah. I mean, the moment they said that they cut the Pokédex, I'm just like, they didn't cut it because they're not going to add it. They're doing something.
No, that's money. Why would they cut it?
Yeah, they were never going to do that. So I guess moving between Let's Go and Sword and Shield would have been pretty difficult since a lot of the Pokemon were cut, but that's kind of their own doing. They did that. So Pokemon Bank is a storage that doesn't take the Pokemon away from you. At least it was like that in Gen 6 from what I see. But as I mentioned before, Home takes the Pokemon indefinitely. So Bank allows you to move Pokemon from Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, but not vice versa.
Bank, you're banking on them to be there forever. Home, they found a new home.
They found a home. You too good for your home? Answer me! Sorry. Happy Gilmore.
Why don't you just go home?
Are you too good for your home? Splice in the scene.
Son of a bitch, Paul. Why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me! Suck my white ass, Paul!
Okay.
Just go home, Paul. Go to your home.
So Pokemon Home points, and that's something else that we mentioned is not on mobile but is on the Switch version. So Pokemon Home points are points that are accumulated in Pokemon Home as you deposit more Pokemon. When using the Switch version, you'll be able to exchange your Pokemon Home points for battle points to be able in core Pokemon series game. I don't know. What are battle points?
That sounds stupid.
Yeah, sounds like, keep giving me your Pokemans and we'll give you this pointless shit. Sure, I'll give you my Mewtwo for pointless shit. Mewtwo even in the game? I would assume he is.
I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
I know like six.
I was gonna say, Let's Go Eevee. Like you could bring in your Mewtwo from Pokemon Go. So that's a thing.
I know like 6 Pokemon. Snorlax. Is he in the game? I think he is in the game.
If he's not, that's a criminal act.
Yeah. But anyway, so to break this down in the end, so not only do you have to pay for Pokemon Bank, which is $5 a year, to my knowledge, to be able to transfer 2 Pokemon Home, which you also must pay for to even do that, $16, $15.99 for a year. If you want the full experience, you will have to pay for both games. $60 for Sword and Shield each, so it's $120. If you want the expansions, you got to pay for $30, not for expansions for both games each. So that's $60 on top of that. So if you just do the expansions for both games and pay for both games, you're already up to $180.
Get fucked, Pokemon nerds.
And that also goes, it's just ridiculous. It's $180 just for the expansions and the games. That doesn't count the $16 a year, the $5 a year tacked on top of that to have this fucking bullshit that should be in the game in the fucking first place. It doesn't factor that in at all. It's just getting worse. It's getting worse.
They announced if they're going to do like an Ultra Sword and Shield or whatever, like do a second version. That's like the ultimate version.
Yeah. I'll die.
Kind of like how they've done with every game.
And we'll be back.
Because when they do that,
yeah, I'll be back.
And then they want to include the expansion, and then they'll make an expansion for those games too.
Yeah.
Like, they're just telling us to get fucked, and people are just gonna sit there.
Yeah, and I feel like Pokemon fans, I shouldn't say all of them. Some of them have smartened up a little bit, but I feel like there are specific Pokemon fans that are never going to smarten up. They're going to look at it and they're going to be like, yeah, I'll pay $180. Yeah, I'll pay this yearly fee for 2 yearly fees. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you don't have to pay for Bank anymore. But based on what I was looking at, I think you still do, because you have to pay for Bank to have Bank unless they're doing away with that. I don't know, but you kind of need one to trade to the other one, so it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And one of them's free for the first month, but who fucking cares? After the first month, what if you don't have the game after the first month? You can just get fucked. I just feel like it's gonna get worse, and until fans stop just like accepting everything Game Freak does at face fucking value instead of saying, hey, this is fucking bullshit. Listen, we didn't accept everything EA did at face fucking value. We looked right into their eye and you said, you are fucking stupid. But we only say that about certain companies. Other companies are allowed to get away with shit. Game Freak is allowed to get away with this shit because they make some franchise that everybody loves, but they're still doing some of the same bullshit. Sure, it's not loot boxes, it's not microtransactions, but when will that start if you're not going to push back on it at all?
But Travis, you're failing to see that Game Freak doesn't do anything bad.
That's
They've
true.
done nothing but right this whole time.
True.
Along with the overlords at E3.
I'm saying they
EA, E3, holy shit.
Oh man, they are double protected because Nintendo doesn't do anything wrong either.
Yeah, they've never done anything bad.
So yeah, this
is what we deserve.
Yeah,
we deserve this. We deserve this extra stuff.
Yeah, I'm just tired of watching.
We deserve the pain
while I don't play Pokemon, I know what shit like this does. It becomes successful, and then other companies, other publishers start adopting it because it worked for them, so it'll work for us. We saw it with loot boxes when what's the people who made League? That company in Overwatch.
Blizzard?
Blizzard.
Yeah, Blizzard.
Yes. When Blizzard started doing that loot boxes, then everybody's like, you know what? This is working for Blizzard. We should start doing that. We had a fucking pandemic on our hands where we had to fucking fight out of this bullshit. And now we're finally pushing back to the point where people are scared to even put loot boxes in the fucking game, to the point where Ubisoft is scared to put jack shit in the fucking game in terms of microtransaction. They deleted all their games because they were scared. They were like, we don't want to lose everyone.
DLC. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we should draw the line. No dumb DLC.
Yeah.
Like DLC that matters, or like added content that matters. Shit that used to be in the game, we should not be sold it right back to us. They should not be allowed to take it out of the game in front of our eyes and then turn it back around and be like, we're going to charge you for it.
Yeah. And I'm all for
it's like they stole our TV, looked at us while stealing it, and then they were like, you want to buy your TV, bro?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
He's got
no.
So like I'm all for good expansions. I really am. But when you're already paying $60 for both games, and then they're making you pay $30 for the expansions. If they made you pay $30 to have the expansions on both games, fine. But to make you pay $30 for each, and you know there's going to be diehard Pokemon fans that are going to do that, you're already up to $180. I could have played 3 fucking games. For all that.
Like back in the day, Black Ops 1, DLC for that used to cost, I think, $15 a pack. This costs 2 of those for the expansion.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's an issue. I played the Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
The expansion just adds old Pokemon? Or what does it add? Like,
I'm not even sure what it adds. It just, there's Pokemon in it, in the expansions, which I was concerned about that because like I said, again, the expansions add more than just new Pokemon. I understand that. The issue is, I sat here and I was like, they are going to start trying to charge for Pokemon. And even though it's an expansion, they are still trying to charge for new Pokemon. And sure, you can trade the Pokemon from the expansions to other people, but you better, every single person on Earth who doesn't buy the expansion better have a friend that plays Pokemon. Because I guarantee you, if the Pokemon in the expansion are good, you're not touching those fucking Pokemon. And you could say there's a free version of Pokemon Home, but let me tell you something. 6,000 compared to 30. You know, what is that? Yeah. 3 compared to 10 for the Wonder Boxes, I believe. It's not... Go ahead.
How much did Breath of the Wild cost?
That's a $60 game.
Is it?
Yes. To my knowledge, it was a full price. It's still $60, so yeah, it's $60.
To my knowledge, the only difference between that game and this game is Pokemon comes out more often than Zelda game.
Well, I always think, and a lot of people disagreed with me on this, even though Pokemon Sword and Shield, I guess, did some different things.
Yeah,
To
I
me,
understand that they did different.
to me, I want more, and it's the same thing we went through with Kakarot. It's okay that
Yeah.
the game was good, but I want more from a game. I want the best out of a game. If we settle for whatever the fuck they're giving us, they're just going to settle themselves. We should want the best out of every single game. Just because you like, say, Pokemon, or just because you like Dragon Ball, doesn't mean you have to take everything they shove down your throat at face value. Because before you know it, you start getting your Xenoverses where they're like, that's good, right? We gave you a new story. And you're like, yeah, but it was shit.
Yeah.
And it's
And
just,
again, the next Pokemon game is right around the corner. It's like how I feel about any sport game. They shouldn't charge full price, especially when next year you're going to be dropping the next one.
They need to take more time in between games, which I say that about every game, just to kind of revamp the system. I'm not saying completely overhaul. Like I would still want it to be like a turn-based game. I don't want them to turn into a fucking RPG or something. But
Button mash.
yeah. But, like, just do something with it that's just cool. Give us awesome animations. Give us cool shit. Just take the turn-based stuff and kind of do what Persona 5 did, where they give you some cool animations and cool little scenes instead of, there are a couple good scenes, a couple little things you do during moves, but it's nothing spectacular. It's nothing that we haven't seen a million times in a game from probably 2001 or something in a turn-based game. You look at, let's take Fire Emblem Three Houses. In terms of turn-based, and I know that's kind of like more of an XCOM, everybody takes their turn-based instead of standing still turn-based. But in terms of, you do that and it still has better animations than Pokemon games.
Well, a new Pokemon-type game was just released not too long ago in Temtem. Clearly people are trying to make a competitor to Pokemon. And now's not the time to be relaxing. Yeah. It's like if there's someone else who can do the thing better, best believe people are gonna flock to that, even if it is a Pokemon clone.
Yeah. And that's what Pokemon
if they can do it better, then that's it.
Yeah, and that's what Pokemon needs. Pokemon needs a competitor.
Well, it's like how Call of Duty used to be the Medal of Honor killer. Because at first, it was Medal of Honor that was the war game. And then Call of Duty came up and killed it.
Yeah, and even if you don't like every Battlefield game, when Battlefield was running on all cylinders, it was making Call of Duty have to do something. Now, of course, your Call of Duty fanboys weren't going to care. Battlefield could have made the greatest game of all time, and they'd push their glasses up on their face, and they'd say, Call of Duty. But
Call of Dirty.
But for the people who are kind of on the fence of which game they want to get, if they're both pushing each other to a limit, and they're completely different styles, because Battlefield's more open. But still, competition is not a bad thing. That's what I say about people with exclusives. Exclusives are not a bad thing because it helps push the other companies to be better.
Xbox,
which they're not really trying too hard to be better. But Ori and the Blind Forest in April. That was one of the ones that come out in April. Oh no, not Blind Forest. Ori and the Whisper or something of the Wisps.
Yeah.
But that's Pokemon Home Premium. I think it's kind of bullshit. VTM, I think, agrees.
Pokemon Premium. Get fucked, nerds.
Yeah. And everything we ran down there, all the things you'll have to pay for to get the full experience. Full experience on the Switch you can't even get unless you have the mobile app. So they're basically making you use the mobile app. And then even then, it doesn't even say, like I said, I'm assuming it'll let you transfer from mobile to the Switch because that would just be stupid if you couldn't. But I couldn't really, I looked everywhere. I couldn't find. We're just going to go on the assumption that I'm assuming you can move Pokemon from mobile to the Switch because otherwise it'd just be stupid.
Yeah.
But that's it for Pokemon Home Premium. The next thing we're moving on for, like we said, we had no games to review this week. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a retrospective for Naughty Dog, one of me and VTM's favorite companies. Something that a company that we have loved. For me, I guess I've only really known them well since I bought my PS4, since it's the only PlayStation I bought, but a company I've learned to love.
See, I've known them since the PlayStation 1 because I had the original Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
I've had the original 3 Crash Bandicoots.
Yeah, I played the
And then I bought
remasters.
them again recently.
I played the remasters of Crash. See, because I never
Yeah.
owned a PlayStation until 4, I didn't really play any of those games. But VTM has the information, and then so yeah.
Okay. So our story starts off with 2 friends who were at a Jewish camp.
A Jewish camp.
Yep, they're both Jewish.
Woo!
So Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin, they're the original co-founders of. They used to hang around, go to school together, go to Jewish camps together, and they were both really good at programming computers back in their day. Like they knew how to crack into it and edit some things, mod things for like basic games like Pong. They knew how to mod Pong and whatnot. So they both decided that they would get together and make their own game. And one of their first games was a skiing game because Jason Rubin had just came back from a skiing trip. And it actually sold quite well for them. Like they sold out. I think they only made like 100 or so copies of it, but they sold out.
They went under a different name then, didn't they?
Yeah, they went under Jam Studios.
Okay.
So Jason and Andy Media, I believe.
Okay. Yep. Jam Software.
Yeah. But so they were in the market to eventually expand. They went to a whole bunch of conventions, and eventually they met up with these producers that go by the name of Electronic Arts, EA.
Yeah.
No one knew who the hell they were
When they were good. When they were still good.
well, back in the day, back in like the 80s and
Back
whatnot.
in the easy. When microtransactions were only like glistening their fucking dicks.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Back in the late 80s. So they eventually signed under EA. And EA had approached them. They were like, you can't use Jam software because it's already taken. So they just randomly came up with the name Naughty Dog. And that's when it was born, was when they first signed with EA. And their first game, Rings of Power, actually sold out with a couple of thousand units. It was a game that Andy Gavin wanted to make because since they made the skiing game for Jason, Andy got his turn and they did Rings of Power, which is a game I have heard of. It's like one of those, I don't know, cult following kind of games.
Rings of Power, is that Superman 64?
No.
Okay.
No. This is an old computer game, like again, like point and click, kind of like Diablo almost. It's kind of like a precursor.
Okay.
But sadly, like when they sold out, they didn't get a reprinting for the game because it was doomed to fail because EA stuck the release date along with another game called Madden.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like that was the end of that. Like that was the end of Rings of Power.
Yeah, Madden had existed then too. The game was more brutal. Football was more brutal then, so people were even more into it.
Yeah, and like when they both sold out at the same time, like guess which one they want to sell more of? It's like, well, they chose Madden.
Yeah, I mean, can you believe that Madden actually sold a game without card packs? It's ridiculous. I don't even know how they. I don't even know how they did it. I don't know how they did it. It's incredible. All right.
But yeah, like after they got like pretty much moved to the side because of Madden, they both kind of fell into like a depression because they were so bummed. And eventually they stopped making games for a little over 6 months. Like they both kind of went their separate ways for a little bit. And then someone at EA had reached out and told them that EA was looking to expand their games to like different systems.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there was this thing called the 3DO. The 3DO was kind of a thing that used graphics, kind of like old Mortal Kombat games where they used people.
Mm-hmm.
That was the 3DO. That was a specific game system that would play those kind of games. And so when they were reached out for this game, they were like, "Oh, it's time to move up in the world, time to do something new." And the first game they did was a game called Way of the Warrior, which was a Mortal Kombat knockoff. Sadly, like they used some same assets and all that. Like it was bad. Like they straight up just ripped off Mortal Kombat.
This was the way.
Yeah, it was the way. But they took that game to a trade show, so to potentially look for like a new home other than EA. They were looking for a new publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point they ran it like a lot of people actually loved their game, even though it was a knock Mortal Kombat.
Sometimes knockoffs aren't always bad. They could be good things sometimes.
Yeah, they can be good, but like, yeah, they drew a lot of attention from a lot of different publishers, but eventually they drew the eye, and that's when they decided to sign with Universal because Universal gave them a really good deal. They gave them office building in the back lot of Universal. They pretty much gave them the foundations of what would become Naughty Dog. Like they gave them the room, they gave them the money, they gave them the opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And they let them create their own thing, which would lead into the creation of Crash Bandicoot. And the creation of Crash Bandicoot was because Universal kind of wanted their own mascot, kind of like how Sonic the Hedgehog was Sega's mascot, and Ty the Tasmanian Devil. I can't remember who. I think it was WB or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That's all, folks.
But like they wanted to create their own mascot, and Naughty Dog was looking past Universal, and they were like, "We want to make a mascot for Sony."
Mm-hmm.
So they came up with a couple of different mascots. They came up with a wombat. I think his name was Wily the Wombat. I can't remember what the other one was, but eventually they came up with Crash.
Mm-hmm.
And Sony was already talking to other people for a potential mascot to help sell this new system that they were releasing, call it the PlayStation. And they saw Crash, and they were like, "That's it. That's our mascot." And like at every convention since that meeting, they would they would put a dude in a mascot suit, and the guys at Naughty Dog couldn't believe it. They were like, "Holy shit, that's our guy!" Like that's like it may just be a guy in a suit, but that's ours. Like that's our dude.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Sony gave them more money. Universal was giving them money, and with that money, they hired 5 other people to help make the game of Crash Bandicoot.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of them.
And to believe that game was made by 7 people, and you can replay the remakes now.
And one of the more classic platformers of all time.
Yeah, they wanted to make a Mario competitor because Mario was seen as a platform. It's like they wanted to make someone who could compete with that for Sony, and they did that. It's like for them to do that with not even the expectations that they had. Like they didn't really have expectations really. Like their games sold well before, but like no real expectation. And like they would go on to craft a legend. It's like when I think of my PlayStation 1, I think of Crash. He was what was known as a system seller. Like he was one of the originals of system selling.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always, like I said, I never owned a PlayStation to PlayStation 4. I was able to play the remasters. I really did enjoy all the Crash games. I never played Crash Team Racing. Did that one get
Yeah.
remastered? I think it did get
Yeah,
remastered,
I got
didn't it?
remastered.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Recently, but I
Uh,
never did play it.
yeah. But yeah, like I played all of them when they were at Crash Warped, which I think is the third one.
Mhm.
Was always my favorite. But so they eventually made this game. The game would cost them $2 million to develop.
Mhm.
And I couldn't find a price, but at the time they sold 6.8 million copies of the game, which is insane for that time.
Yeah.
Like I think they were seventh highest selling game at the time
Mm-hmm.
for like any platform.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like but thanks to this success, like a lot of people were like looking for the next one. Like they were looking forward to the next game. So of course they had to go bigger, go better. And and because they were working for a producer, they had deadlines to meet. But sadly, they would start to fail their deadline because again, like they want to do so much in so little time with a little team.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to properly develop games was to expand their team. So they then went from a 7-man team, well, 6 men and 1 woman. They would go from 7 people to 20, to eventually 50, to eventually like 100, 200, and eventually like get to the 300s. They had their own army that could take on Spartans.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and with each game, like they sold millions of copies. Like I think the next 2 Crash games would go on to sell like almost 4 million a piece.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Before you continue, I got this. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is Sparta. Okay, I had to get that.
No, this is Naughty Dog.
Oh, my bad. But I had to get it out of the way. You made the 300 thing, and I had to.
Yeah, I did make that reference.
Yeah.
But so eventually they finished up their 3 Crash games to moderate success,
Mm-hmm.
and they did the Crash Team Racing or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm. Which
And,
a lot of people loved Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
Racing.
A lot of people just love that franchise altogether.
Mm-hmm.
It was this franchise.
Yep.
But eventually, with those dreams accomplished, they looked to expand in their creativity. So soon after, like they finished up the Crash franchise, they started on the next franchise,
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Daxter.
Jackson Daxter, a game that I never played.
I played the first one,
Okay.
but they couldn't start on it without having to leave Universal, sadly.
Mhm.
So that was the end of Crash for all we knew. Sadly, he would get picked up by the people who do Skylanders, and then he would be added to that, and
And then Activision. No, I know they did good remasters, but still, fuck Activision.
yeah, like that. Like we know the history of Crash. They eventually got like remade into what we know now,
Yeah.
and again showing the highlights of the PlayStation 1 era.
Mhm.
Hashtag remake Metal Gear Solid. But anyways, they would leave Universal and just like pretty much fully sign on with PlayStation. Like they had a really good working relationship with the head of PlayStation at the. They still do actually. Like he always looks forward to like what games they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But they started on the Jackson Daxter games, which again would be another success in their books, like with all 3 games, including their racing game, of course. But their goal in the whole thing was to make something big kind of like Universal, almost. How like Star Wars seems huge because it expands the universe. They want to do that. They want to make a story in the stars,
Mm-hmm.
space adventure.
Yeah.
And this is where they would start attempting things
Mm-hmm.
that would pave the way for what Naughty Dog does now. Like they made, like this was the first time they got to truly work with like audio in games, like people talking in game.
Mm-hmm.
Like Crash had people talking, but it was never to the extent of these 3 games.
Yeah. Well, when you
And
say Game in the Stars, it kind of reminds me of what eventually was Ratchet and Clank.
yeah, but yeah, like they attempted more dialogue with the Jax games. The second one was heavily influenced by Grand Theft Auto because that was what was around the time. Like Grand Theft Auto was becoming a bigger thing. So they figured they needed something open world, so they took their stab at open world.
Mm-hmm.
Their character would progress and age along with the audience. So like he took on more humanistic or human real, like he was look more human pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time they had their main character talking. Like he eventually started talking.
Mm-hmm.
And with the third game, they wanted to do more platforming, more shooting, more talking, more cinematics, and all that.
Yeah, which doesn't seem like a big deal now, but with that time was a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Than it is now.
It was a big deal for them because it was something that they never tried. It was something that a lot of people weren't really doing outside a set few. And sadly, like with the success of all these games, like the two heads, like Jason Rubin, Andy Gavin, they had no personal time. Like Jason Rubin once explained in an interview that like, yeah, they would have like all these months to do the games, and then like there would be a month break or so for the team so they can recoup. But for them, they were always working. They were going on press runs and all, advertising the games, going to conventions, advertising the games. Like they were pushing these games. They were owners who were involved in their games. They cared about their game. They planned their games. Like they were the creative minds behind these games. And like it just took a toll on them to where eventually they would just step down. Like them stepping down is viewed as maybe one of the most amicable or successful stepping downs of any kind of like founders / presidents.
I mean, making
like they went peacefully because they wanted to. Like they weren't pushed out or anything. People loved them. It just became too much. They had no time to themselves.
Yeah, making games is a tough proposition overall. That's why when you see like nowadays all these games getting this hard work probably by the developers being put in, especially nowadays, just be fucked over by the owners of a company because they want to shove some bullshit into it, and you have these guys that are just like, we're doing it I know this is an older mindset, but there are people with still that mindset today. That's the people that make their good games, like Naughty Dog, where they want to make the best game possible, not just to see how much they can nickel and dime you out of stuff. And so these owners were more involved in that sense to make sure every game was as good as possible. So it makes sense that it would eventually take their toll, especially if there's only 2 of them.
Yeah, like these guys cared about their team and they cared about their games. They didn't want to just push out a product to make money. They wanted to push out a product to be the best at their craft. But yeah, so eventually they would step down and they would name Evan Wells as the president, and they were grooming a guy by the name of Stephen White, I believe his name is, to potentially be his second hand, but he would eventually step away too. And so, like, Evan Wells was just left by himself to go on and finish, like, the last 2 Jax games.
Mm-hmm.
But his vision would become clear in the 3rd game of where he wanted things to go. Because his vision was more aligning to Uncharted. Because Uncharted was where he was thinking. He wanted to go from space to grounding the characters.
Run and gun.
Yeah, like, well, he wanted to take what they had already done, but, like, he wanted to ground the characters so we could relate to them. Like, put them on Earth. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, while also working on Uncharted, they would reach out to a well-known modder by the name of Christoph Balestra.
Mm-hmm.
And he would start helping with working on the game, to the point that he would be appointed pretty much like co-president.
Yeah.
Like, he just climbed up the ranks faster than anyone else to where he just became co-president, along with Evan Wells. And thanks to them, they would soon, like, finish Uncharted.
Mm-hmm. And I also think Amy Hennig was one of the creative forces behind that too.
Yeah, she was one of the lead writers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really the vision of Evan who wanted their work to go this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like he had the idea, but he didn't know how to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And she came in to write it down for him.
Yeah.
So they started working on Uncharted. And then Sony was like, hey, we know you're working on a game. We need to talk to you about this new thing we're making. Call it the PlayStation 3.
They slid into their DMs.
Yeah, they slid into the DMs. They were like, hey, we got this thing that we think you can do a thing for.
Mm-hmm.
Will you do the thing after you see the thing? And they saw the thing and they were like, holy shit.
You do something with that.
Yeah, we could do something with that. But sadly, they were overwhelmed. Like,
oh, no.
Uncharted was a mess for them to make. Because, like, they didn't know anything about mocapping. Like, they didn't know anything about how, like, to do the graphics with, like, talking or anything. Like, everything they had to start over with, pretty much. They had to start from scratch for Uncharted, to the point that nothing was working. Like, they easily spent, like, maybe a good 3 or 4 months working on the game, and it just got to the point that they scrapped everything for it because nothing was working.
Yep.
And a lot of the team were upset with that.
Yeah.
That they were getting nowhere. Like, they just kept hitting roadblock after roadblock, where they would just start losing people. Like, every week, every day, it seemed like someone was quitting because they couldn't figure it out.
New IPs are hard.
Yeah, and it was a dark time for Naughty Dog. Like, they were just falling into the hole, and it seemed like they couldn't pull themselves out until eventually they bunkered down. They were like, all right, we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to figure this out. We just need to take it slow. We need to stop rushing it. And they did it. Like, they pulled it together. They figured out what they were doing. The game wasn't the best of the best, but, like, it was a start in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
It started their franchise. It pretty much casted a new light to Naughty Dog. They went from the Crash guys to the Uncharted guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then a historical moment would hit with E3. Because at E3, they revealed Uncharted 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Naughty Dog was pretty much at the top of their game again, was with that. And their whole point of Uncharted 2, specifically the E3 trailer, was to show how strong the PlayStation 3 was. Like, to show what you could do. You could have all this stuff moving on screen while it all still looks amazing.
Yep. All cylinders.
You can have your character being a badass while also making quips and all that, while barely escaping death.
While murdering everyone, just make a joke about it.
While murdering everyone and making jokes. Like, that was their whole point about their E3 trailer, which was them showing a building falling and you're in it. Like, how awesome does that sound? Like, you survive a building that falls. And you jump to another building. Like, it was hype. And then after that, they immediately got to work on the game because they didn't have anything else. They just had that one scene.
Yeah, well, that was probably more common back then. But if Anthem's taught us anything, it still exists today sometimes.
Yeah, like, it's something that still exists today. Like, there was another game recently where, like, they had shown just a piece and it wasn't even done. I think it might have been like God of War, or was it not? Like, they showed that segment, but like they weren't even finished on the rest of the game.
Yeah, God of War had a live. I think Cory Barlog himself played at E3 played the game a little bit, and they didn't even have the game really that done.
Yeah,
they only had that little scene.
Well, it's definitely a practice. It's like a pilot episode. They have that done, but they don't have the rest done. They don't know what the hell they're actually going to do. They just knew a certain scene that they wanted, and that was the scene. Other than the train scene that they knew that they wanted.
Oh, the train scene. Was that 2?
Yeah, that was in 2.
Oh my god.
That was something else Evan Wells wanted. He knew that he wanted that scene in there. He didn't care how they got it in there. He just wanted something that was spectacular. And it was like that scene was a big coming together for Naughty Dog, because they had to, for that scene alone, they had to pass that scene through so many people to get like the loops going and like have the music change at the right time, have characters behave in a certain way from like scene to scene to scene, because the train is always changing. Like, as you go along the train, it's always changing. And like they just had to work with so many different teams on that one.
Such an amazing scene.
And like with that, like they eventually completed Uncharted 2, which would cement them as like big game developers. Like it would cement them as the Naughty Dog that we know nowadays. They were no longer the Crash Naughty Dog. Like, they were no longer... They went from one mascot to another. They went from Crash to Nathan Drake. And so, like, they want to prove that they could bring it all home. Like, they want to start focusing more on story, while also having you play through the cutscenes instead of you having to sit for a cutscene. And so that's how Uncharted 3 came to be. Like, eventually they and at the time they were working on a Uncharted PSP game. After their first game, they also released it for PSP. But then they were working on the second one for PSP. But that one didn't end up releasing. They ended up canceling that one so all the teams could work on Uncharted 2, because they figured, why split your resources when you can pull them all together? Which is smart. That way you don't create stress and a crunch. And again, they don't have a deadline to work for. So they don't have to crunch as hard as other game developers do. Which is something that's nice.
Yeah, crunch is his own thing.
Yeah, and again, like they have the full blessing of Sony, so it's like they could really say, "Oh, we're going to take like 5 years to make a game." don't worry about us. And Sony would be like, all right, you take your time. Like, we don't care. We know you're gonna do good.
Yep, that's that trust that not every
Yeah.
company has, or a company like an EA nowadays does have trust, and doesn't have trust, and even though they should, and then they just start fucking with the developers of games.
Yeah. But so they wanted to do the story and all that, so they built more story onto Uncharted 3. And again, they wanted things to be over the top like a movie.
Mhm.
And they achieved that. Like Uncharted 3 is just action packed and it has more story. But eventually, like, they would want to do something better. Because it's in their nature. It's like they try new stuff with their current franchise or series, and then they move to the next and apply what they've learned.
Oh, did it get better?
Oh, and they applied everything they learned throughout the years, from like action to storytelling to voice work to graphics to even just like the way the game plays through like movement and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They took all of that and made The Last of Us.
One
One of their points for making The Last of Us was to prove to everyone that they could also do like a true story without having to rely on action.
Yep, and like The Last of Us, it's like literally one of the best or like character-driven stories in a game I've ever played in my life.
Yes.
I loved it.
Yeah, that game is amazing, and again, it's like it's an accumulation of everything they've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's them prove it, like, and it's always like each game is about them having to prove themselves that they can do it. And again, they want to prove that they could slow it down, that they could pull back and like show you that we can make a story. But like in the beginning stages of The Last of Us, like it wasn't looking good for the game because like a lot of playtesters were complaining about the game. Like they didn't like how the game played, they didn't like the story. But the more that they played of it, the more those problems would fade away.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where
the more there are questions about, oh, what happens to Ellie? What happens to Joel? Like, what's the story going to be? Like, it became more about what's actually happening in story. Like, so like through their storytelling, they changed these naysayers into, we want to see the next thing. Like, we need to know.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where I don't know. It's just I can't get over how good those characters are.
Yeah.
But with the playtesters, it's just one of those situations where a game starts slow. People have a short attention span, and they're just like, this game sucks. But if you give it time to develop, and I don't even know how you could say the game starts too slow unless they just didn't play the opening scene.
Oh, my heart.
There is a slow build after that into meeting Ellie and everything, but once you meet Ellie, I don't know, you hit a certain point where it's just like awesome. It's just amazing. The characters you run into, every character of importance you run into is important, has a role. Even if something bad or good happens to them in the end, there's a meaning to every single character, and you actually can relate to every single character. And it's just it's something that there's only a few games anymore that does this character-driven story game. You know, I think God of War had that.
Yeah.
The new God of War, the old God of War, no, but he was just ripping people's heads off and shit, which is fine.
Well, hell,
it's also fun.
Even like talking about character-driven, it's like again like Nathan Drake and Uncharted 2 and 3, like he's so character driven to be the way he is,
and even more character.
And people pointed out, like again in Uncharted 3 and 4, like it's a life that he loves, but people keep saying he doesn't need it. And it's like, it's true. He doesn't need his kind of life. But he kind of gets a high off of it.
Yeah. He pitches a tent.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't need it, but he needs it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just they do a good. They just learned through Uncharted and through The Last of Us, and then on to the Uncharted after The Last of Us, just how to turn characters and make it a story-driven experience that you'll remember. There's games that you enjoy, but there's games that you enjoy that you won't remember. For the most part, most Naughty Dog games, you remember those games. I remember the first time I played The Last of Us. I remember the first time I played Uncharted 4 and the Uncharted series in general. Yeah. And I'm sure
that's something about Naughty Dog. Like, they've always made games that like are enjoyable at any time
and memorable.
Like, again, like they were the mascot for PlayStation, and they still kind of are. Like,
yeah.
Like, either you're looking at a Crash Bandicoot or a Nathan Drake or just Joel and Ellie. Like, it's like you talk about your system sellers. It's like you look at Naughty Dog games. Those are system sellers. That's it. Like,
amazing.
Oh, I'm thinking about buying the PlayStation. What should I get? Uncharted, Last of Us. Hell, you can even get the Crash trilogy now. It's like sure, Crash isn't as big as it was, but it's still a good game.
And Activision tries to take all credit.
Yeah, it's like, no, all you did was like upgrade the graphics. You did nothing to change the core game that Naughty Dog crafted.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think that's just a testament to them. It's like they make games to last. Like, I've been playing through the Uncharted games on PlayStation 4, and they're all fun. Like, they're all great. Yeah. But like, you can definitely see their determination to do something bigger in each game.
Yeah, I've never played a Naughty Dog, from Uncharted 1 through until now, I've never played a Naughty Dog game that made me like, I don't want to play this game again. You always want to sit there and you're like, man, I really want to play Uncharted again, and it just hits you. Not all games can do that. There's some games where you play it, The Quiet Man, and you're just done.
Kingdom Hearts for me.
Well, I wouldn't play Kingdom Hearts again, not because I didn't enjoy it, but because it literally destroyed my soul at certain points with how hard some sections were.
Yeah.
My heart couldn't take it again unless you're planning on burying me. Coming to the funeral if I play Kingdom Hearts again, because that's what would happen.
Only if there are cheese puffs at the funeral.
Yeah.
Like, I eat myself to an earlier grave.
Ooh, cheese puffs. You know what? We should have cheese puffs at my funeral. That'd be great. But
I eat myself to an earlier grave. But yeah, like with Last of Us, it looked like they were moving towards a new series. But then they did something odd that they've never done, and they went back a series with Uncharted 4. Yeah. So, which again kind of took what they learned from Last of Us and applied it to Uncharted. It's like it's kind of a machine that oils itself almost, or like that drives itself. It's like they did Uncharted, but they wanted to prove that they could do a story along with the action, and so Last of Us was born. And they figured out that they could do a story, so they applied it to Uncharted. It's like, so you just kind of made your own game while making another game.
Yeah. As I'm holding the Uncharted 4 steel case right now. And this just leads me to confirm that Neil Druckmann is a fucking god. And he can have my babies. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, between him and Evan Wells and Christoph, whatever his last name, like between those three, like the creative potential is vast. Like,
yeah, and that's
like, because again, without the leader change, like the presidency change, we probably wouldn't have never gotten Uncharted, which is hard to believe. Like, when it's so big nowadays. Like, if they did not appoint Evan at the top, and if he didn't bring in Kristoff, and they didn't make the decision to take Neil Druckmann off of the PSP game, like, we wouldn't be where we are.
For sure. And it's just everything Naughty Dog's been through, everything that built to this moment. The reason we did this was because, well, we wanted to do a retrospective on Naughty Dog. Also, May.
Last of Us 2 is almost around the corner.
Last of Us 2 in May was almost this month, and just the thought of that makes me want to die on the inside. So I'll just act like it was always May.
And I believe Travis has also played through Last of Us on his channel.
I think
on
I
his
have.
YouTube channel. On this YouTube channel. I think he just completed The Last of Us, and he's going through the DLC right now.
I think so. I think by the time this video's up, all the DLC will be uploaded and live.
Like, you guys should go watch it and maybe leave a comment. What am I saying? Who is filling my mind with these words?
You should
maybe
watch
like it and share it on whatever social media.
It's a great game, worth watching for the 100th time.
Print out a picture of the video, tape it to a rock, and then throw that rock through a window.
Yeah,
and on the back of the rock, say subscribe to Travis.
Yeah, we'll go with that, you robot. But anyway, The Last of Us 2 with Naughty Dog, I until they prove to me that they misstepped, I have no
until they release Anthem, we have trust. Just like we have trust in Respawn.
Yeah. I love Naughty Dog so much. I didn't know much about them until, like I said, the PS4 was my first PlayStation I ever had. I'm happy that purchase was made. I would never turn back between Naughty Dog, between the Uncharted series, The Last of Us, Crash Bandicoot, upcoming Last of Us 2, God of War, Spider-Man. You know, the PS4 has been PS4 and PlayStation in general has been great, and Naughty Dog has been...
PS4 is better than Xbox!
Yeah.
Spread it around!
And
PS4 dunks all over Xbox. I don't know what you guys have on Xbox. What, you have Halo that's like years old? Like,
yeah.
I played Halo up until Halo Reach. I know what Halo's about. Get out of here. What, you guys have Gears? Gears sucks.
Hey, now. I have
what can you tell me about what was the last one? Gears 5.
Well,
no one plays Gears 5 anymore.
Well,
that game released and then it died like a Ubisoft game.
That's a conversation for a different day. But yeah, Naughty Dog has been a big influencer throughout PlayStation. They continue to pump out greatness, and I hope The Last of Us Part 2 is just as great, if not better than everything they've put out. And I hope they continue that upward spiral to greatness, because as someone who loves video games, we need more developers like this, like us, Sony Santa Monica, when they make God of War, and like an Insomniac for Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank, to actually put out great games that we're looking forward to, and not just games that are looking to pinch money out of your wallets. But that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think this is a little longer one than last time. But me and VTM will be back next week with something. We don't know what yet. We'll figure it out.
It'll just be us juggling things.
In audio form.
Yeah, you won't see it, but you'll hear it, and then you'll have to guess what we're juggling.
Okay, that's the worst idea ever. We'll figure something better out next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.